just see the damage of the post there. It's hit the post and goes straight to the fence.
Frightening moments leading to a deadly conclusion. North York residents woken by a crash, only to learn a neighbor had been struck and killed. Good evening. The deadly incident happened early this morning near Lawrence and Varna Drive, close to Allen Road.
Now a 19-year-old man is facing charges included impaired driving causing death. CTV's Beth McDonnell has been following the investigation and joins us live now with more. Beth.
Andrea, the man was walking along the area here of Lawrence when a BMW lost control and struck the man. The car ended up near this fence after appearing to have spun around. A woman holding a phone, appearing to be in the midst of a video call, breaks down. She's standing next to the heavily damaged 2022 BMW that hit and killed a 54-year-old man walking on the sidewalk.
I just heard a loud sound. So I think it's impact when it hit the fence.
The crash happened in North York around 5 in the morning on Lawrence West, just east of the Allen, and woke up people like Mario Perez sleeping in the building right next to it.
Very fast, the car is so fast, and it hit the post there. I just see the damage of the post there. It's hit the post and goes straight to the fence.
Toronto police say the BMW was traveling west when it changed from the passing lane to the curb lane to overtake another vehicle. Police say the driver lost control, mounted the curb onto the sidewalk, striking the man.
It was kind of messy. I saw some scattered stuff on the road, and it looked like the drivers over there that made a huge turn or something like that.
Two neighbors tell CTV News they saw a small group of young people outside the car after the crash. Officers say a 19-year-old man is facing impaired driving charges and street racing may have been a factor.
It's frightening what happened because someone passed away.
This day will be something that this family will never forget. And the way that their loved one died will be something they'll never forget.
Mad Canada says losing a loved one like this can make the grieving process more difficult, with 30%, close to 1/3 of road deaths still involving some type of impairment. The highest risk category, young men between 18 and their early 30s.
Despite the progress is made, that's still the group that is the hardest to reach. And so it's, frustrating to see another case where potentially that has happened. It's about finding a way to connect to young people who often feel invincible, to try and educate them about the real human cost.
Police say the 54-year-old man out walking was pronounced dead in hospital. The driver and 3 passengers stayed at the scene and were not injured. 19-year-old Shen Kwong Wang of Toronto is facing multiple charges. None of the allegations have been tested in court. Police believe there is dash cam video out there and they're hoping people come forward and share it. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. A man's been seriously injured in a shooting in Etobicoke. Emergency crews were called to the Rathburn and Martin Grove area at around 4 this morning. When they arrived, they found a man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds and rushed him to hospital. So far, there's been no word on any suspects.
The OPP is investigating a shooting on a stretch of the Hamilton area highway. Hamilton paramedics say they were called around 5 a.m. to the area of Highway 6 and Concession 5. They found 2 women in their 20s suffering from gunshot wounds. One woman was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries, while the other was transported with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police have not provided any information about possible suspects, but they say they do not believe there is a risk to public safety. They are appealing for anyone with information to come forward.
Meanwhile, a 23-year-old Hamilton man will appear in court this week after a deadly police chase near Kirkland Lake. The accused is facing 16 charges, including attempted murder. OPP say they tried to pull over a driver on Thursday, but the vehicle did not stop. A second suspect, only identified as a 26-year-old man, was later killed in an exchange of gunfire with police. The incident also left a 76-year-old bystander seriously injured. The accused is also charged with assault with a weapon, assaulting a peace officer, and escaping lawful custody. He's set to appear in court tomorrow.
No injuries were reported after a fire tore through 3 homes in Richmond Hill overnight.
Flames broke out at a home under construction, forcing an entire neighborhood to evacuate. CTV's Mike Walker has been following this story and joins us now with more. Mike.
Well, Nathan, this fire spread quickly due to high wind, causing millions of dollars in damage to these 3 homes. We spoke with one of the homeowners who managed to safely escape their home with their family just moments before the flames had spread to their house. This is the devastating aftermath of a fire that gutted 3 homes in Richmond Hill. The blaze started at this home currently under construction.
It's just catastrophic. I think it's just a bad fire.
Returning to the scene today, Hasina Amanzai is in shock, but grateful her family is okay after losing everything. The fire quickly spread to their Duncan Road home just before midnight. Moments before, Amanzai and her husband smelled smoke as the house under construction next door quickly became engulfed in flames.
He looked outside the window from my back office and he said, "Sweetie, that neighbor's house is on fire. Call 911.
The couple, their 2 children, and mother-in-law managed to safely escape their home, only to watch the fire destroy it and the other neighboring house.
It was so quick, within split seconds probably, and then the roof started going on and then the neighbor's house was going on at the same time.
No one was injured, but as the fire raged on, heavy winds prompted police to evacuate the area.
How the wind was blowing last night, they were hosing my house down.
Neighbors say the home had been under construction for several months.
So this whole house was up in flames. They were constructing that, and it was all wood frame construction, and basically everything's gone.
Forensic investigators were on scene this afternoon, looking for evidence to point to a potential cause. The deputy fire chief says it doesn't appear to be suspicious.
Usually when houses are being built like this, there's some sort of heat inside to help cure concrete or that type of things, but we're trying to determine now whether the heaters were actually on or not.
But given the extent of the damage to the home being built, investigators may never know what caused this destructive fire.
There was no drywall inside. There was no brick on the exterior. It's going to be very hard to determine a cause for this fire, unfortunately.
Amanzai and her family are now staying with family in Oshawa as they begin the painstaking task of rebuilding their lives.
I think I've lost a lot of memories of the house. I've lived in it for 20 years. I basically grew up in this house. My kids are safe. That's very, very important. We all made it out safely out of the house.
The Office of the Fire Marshal has been notified but won't be investigating. Police say this fire caused a damage estimate of $12 million to all 3 homes. Reporting live in Richmond Hill, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And 2 women are dead following a house fire in Guelph. Flames broke out shortly after 12:30 this morning inside a home on Edinburgh Drive. Guelph Fire says one of the victims died at the scene, while the second victim died in hospital. 2 others managed to escape. The fire is not considered suspicious, but the cause is under investigation.
Some scary moments on the 401 today after a vehicle was struck by a flying wheel. The OPP Highway Safety Division posted these photos of the aftermath. They say the wheel came off a vehicle traveling eastbound on the 401 at Victoria Park. It eventually struck another vehicle on the westbound side of the highway. 3 people in the vehicle suffered minor injuries.
I'm told by the officer investigating it that the person sitting in the front passenger seat where that wheel came into, saw it at the last second and ducked, and probably saved their life just by doing that, because, a big tire or small tire, whatever, commercial vehicles or passenger vehicles, when you're coming at that kind of speed, you can see the absolute damage and intrusion that has on the vehicle.
The driver of the vehicle which lost the wheel has been charged with having a detached part.
A funeral was held today for the Dotsenko family. They died in a plane crash in Nashville, Tennessee last week. Friends and family gathered at the Steeles Memorial Chapel to say a final goodbye to Victor and Rima Dotsenko, as well as their 3 children, David, Adam, and Emma. The family of 5 was killed when their small plane suffered a catastrophic engine failure near the Tennessee capital. The family's plane was based out of the Brampton Flight Center. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board is conducting an investigation into the deadly crash.
Today marks 4 years since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. This morning, the Premier was asked, what have we learned in those 4 years?
When we all work together, we put our political stripes to the side, we're unstoppable. I think we did extremely well compared to the rest of the world. everyone pitched in, everyone helped out, from the manufacturers, the healthcare workers, to industry. Everyone did an incredible job. I've never seen anything like it. And the other thing that I learned is, if you want to get something done, and it shouldn't take the pandemic to do it, but everyone moved at lightning speed. Something that might take 2 years to get through government took a month. So that just goes to show you that government can always be more efficient than what it is.
On May 5th, 2023, the WHO downgraded COVID-19 from a public health emergency of international concern.
Still to come, health experts weigh in on 4 years since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll have more on how things have changed a little later in the show.
A new report from city staff is suggesting a plan to build affordable housing on municipal parking lots and other city-owned land. The report says the city has a number of assets which can be better used to address programs such as housing, creating complete communities, and funding critical infrastructure. Toronto currently owns 300 parking lots, which city staff identify at least 130, which could potentially support housing.
A lot of them close to public transportation, a lot of them that could be intensified. So we're not talking about the city going in and building a 2-story building. We're talking about the city going in and partnering with a nonprofit or the private sector, or building themselves, like they've done in certain cases of the modular housing, and building some density. So it could create, it could have an impact, like I said. And the more governments bring to the table, the deeper affordability you can get and the longer time of affordability you can get. So this is a good thing. And if you coupled it with other programs from the federal government and provincial government, it makes it even better.
The report also suggests residential intensification around subway stations along Line 2 as an opportunity to address housing shortages.
The City of Hamilton's website is back online after going down yesterday. City staff say they're still working to restore the Engage Hamilton and Open Hamilton sites. The city was the target of a cyber attack 2 weeks ago, but officials say the most recent outages was the result of precautionary system changes made in response to the cybersecurity incident. Staff say they'll provide more updates as they become available.
The TTC is pushing ahead with more late-night repairs over the coming days. From today until Thursday, subway service on Line 1 between Eglinton and Shepherd Yonge stations will end nightly at 11 p.m. for maintenance. Shuttle buses will be operating and regular service will resume at 6 a.m. The TTC is also warning that subway service on Lines 1 and 2 might be slower than usual due to reduced speed zones to allow for track maintenance. The full list of changes can be found at the TTC's website.
And we've got more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city. We're still getting some sunshine now that we've sprung forward, and it's already feeling like spring. Let's take a look at the current conditions. We do have clear skies, a bit of cloud cover coming in, but not much to talk about, and that's a good thing. There's some wind coming in from the west, and that's making it feel a little bit cooler than it is right now. With the wind chill, it feels like 3 in Toronto, but really we're at 7 in Oshawa, 7 in Milton, 8 in Burlington. And if looking at things overnight at a glance, -5 is normal this time of year as far as how it's going to feel, but it's going to be down to 2. There's some clouds, but I think what's is noticeable is the sunrise, 7:35 again, because we've sprung forward. It's a little bit darker in the morning than usual. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast a little bit later in the show.
More than 20,000 students at Montreal's McGill and Concordia universities are set to go on strike this week in protest over tuition hikes. Quebec's government recently increased tuition for out-of-province and international students by $3,000 a year. The government cited what it called a decline of French in Montreal as a reason for the move. The universities have filed legal challenges and say application levels from outside Quebec have already dropped. Students say this week's planned disruptions will help raise awareness about the issue.
A new poll is outlining the dire situation facing the federal Liberals in the next election. The Main Street Research Survey finds support for Trudeau's Liberal Party is at a historic low with just 25% support. Meanwhile, the Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, are at an all-time high of 46% support. According to the poll, Liberal support in Ontario and Quebec is continuing to decline.
Former Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi is entering the race to become the next leader of the Alberta NDP. Nenshi served 3 terms as mayor of Calgary and left office in 2021. In January, current Alberta NDP leader Rachel Notley announced she would be stepping down. Nenshi says the province deserves better than United Conservative Party government led by Premier Danielle Smith. He says he considers himself an underdog, but has been encouraged to run by NDP supporters from across the province.
Still to come, a royal photo controversy. The Princess of Wales is apologizing after news agencies raised concerns about a manipulation of a picture of her and her children.
A warning that this next story contains disturbing content. Canada is pledging $1 million in the wake of the deadly Hamas attack in southern Israel on October 7th. The money will go to support those who suffered sexual violence during the assault that started the war. Last week, a UN envoy said there are reasonable grounds to believe rape and other acts occurred. Support sexual violence victims in Israel. Now, 1,200 people were killed in the attack. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly made the pledge while in Israel today. She also offered RCMP support for investigations.
There were hopes for a pause in the fighting between Israel and Hamas before Ramadan began, but that did not happen. And today, the head of the UN called for empathy, action, and peace during the holy month.
My strongest appeal today is to honor the spirit of Ramadan by silencing the guns and removing all obstacles to ensure the delivery of life-saving aid at the speed and massive scale required. At the same time, and in the Ramadan spirit of compassion, I call for the immediate release of all hostages.
Antonio Guterres says the eyes of the world are watching, and there must be action to avoid more preventable deaths.
More aid was dropped into the Gaza Strip today as the hunger crisis worsens. Hundreds of thousands of people have been pushed to the brink of starvation in the territory, and about 80% of the population has been forced from their homes since the war began. There's also a critical shortage of water and medicine.
Meanwhile, a ship carrying 200 tons of food for Gaza remains docked in Cyprus. The vessel belongs to the Spanish aid group Open Arms. It was supposed to begin a pilot voyage to the Palestinian enclave as soon as possible. Israel says it welcomes the sea deliveries and will inspect Gaza-bound cargo before it leaves Cyprus.
Canada's ambassador to the UN attended an urgent meeting today convened to address the crisis in Haiti.
There have been a lot of discussions behind the scenes about a need for a political accord that goes much wider and includes more people and more parties and gets us to a point where we can begin to create a consensus that will help us build the momentum for an election. But we've got to do something to get rid of the violence.
Armed gangs have terrorized the Caribbean nation for more than a week, leading to a state of emergency. Today's meeting in Jamaica was called by a regional trade bloc known as CARICOM. Haiti's prime minister did not attend. He's in Puerto Rico, essentially blocked from returning to his country because of the violence.
In Brussels, Sweden's flag was raised at NATO headquarters today. It cements the Nordic country's place as a 32nd member of the alliance. Sweden formally joined NATO on March 7th, setting aside decades of neutrality. Its neighbor Finland joined last April. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has increased security concerns among countries in the region.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is rejecting an appeal from Pope Francis to negotiate peace with Russia. Zelensky did not refer to the pontiff or his remarks directly, but used his evening address to suggest the Pope's ideas differed from those of religious figures in Ukraine. Zelensky stated the church is with the people and not 2,500 kilometers away to mediate between someone who wants to live and someone who wants to destroy you.
The King delivered a video message today marking the 75th anniversary of the Commonwealth Day.
The Commonwealth, above all, retains a particular focus on our young people, who make up 2/3 of the entire Commonwealth population. Whether in Kenya or Malaysia, Vanuatu or Dominica, Malta or Canada, I never cease to be impressed by their creativity, innovative skills and hard work, often in the most challenging circumstances.
The monarch also said we must work to address inequalities and injustices and expressed appreciation for the good wishes he's received following his cancer diagnosis.
Meanwhile, the king's daughter-in-law was also in the spotlight today for a different reason.
The Princess of Wales confirmed a family photo released on the weekend was altered. CTV's Scott Hurst has the details.
Prince William attends a Commonwealth service at Westminster Abbey alone today, as controversy encircles his wife Catherine, Princess of Wales. Kensington Palace released the photo, which was the first official picture sent out since her abdominal surgery 2 months ago, meant to put an end to weeks of speculation about her health.
This is a PR nightmare. It's a disaster.
But news agencies began pulling the photo from circulation soon after publishing on Sunday, citing inconsistencies. British newspapers and tabloids now pouncing on the controversy with headlines that read, "Looking great, Kate, but fans spot Photoshop gaffe." The princess issuing an apology herself today, saying in part, "Like many amateur photographers, I do occasionally experiment with editing."
It's the first time that I know of that the palace has ever released something that was misleading and then admitted it.
Eagle-eyed observers have been pointing to some of the potential flaws, including part of Princess Charlotte's sleeve appears to be missing. Catherine's hand on the other side is blurry compared to Prince Louis's sweater. A blurring around Charlotte's knee as well. Also, Catherine's wedding ring missing from her finger.
This is all about public trust. Can the public trust anything that any part of the royal family, the monarchy, the palaces are telling us? You know, so if this photo wasn't real, what else is not real?
Despite the apology and admission, Kensington Palace is facing increased pressure to release the original photo. Scott Hurst, CTV News, Toronto.
U.S. Congress is set to vote this week on a bill which would ban TikTok in the United States.
We simply cannot allow an app controlled by our nation's foremost adversary and competitor to take over the American media landscape.
The legislation would require ByteDance, the Chinese parent company of the popular app, to sell off its stake in the company. If it chooses not to, TikTok would be blocked from American phones. U.S. President Joe Biden has indicated he will sign the bill if it passes.
There's a privacy concern. There's certainly a concern over the safety of kids that's been raised. There's been a concern about productivity and mental health and well-being. But there are also concerns from a political perspective, because this is an election year. There's a lot of questions about political meddling and influence operations. And finally, there's the economic angle.
TikTok has roughly 170 million users in the U.S. alone. Former U.S. President Donald Trump tried unsuccessfully to ban the app in 2020.
March breaks in full swing, with families making the most of their time off.
With an early start to maple syrup season, many parents and kids decided to swing by Black Creek Pioneer Village for a sweet treat. CTV's Sean Leathong has the details.
The slow drip of sap signals the start of maple syrup season, from the drilling all the way to the boiling. March break inside Black Creek Pioneer Village is a trip back to the 1860s, helping kids see
the old houses and old stuff that you could do in like one time ago.
It's also the start of Maple Days during the March break.
We're just showing a brief part of that history when a lot of the European settlers were learning that knowledge from these indigenous people and practicing it.
All week, kids get to see the process, starting with a tree. It must be at least 40 years old and 80 centimeters around. Then the tree can be tapped. And they can even get a chance to drill.
We are drilling into the wood because you need to make a hole for the maple syrup to get out.
Tell me about it. Is it hard to do? Is it easy? What is it like?
Easy.
Then a bucket collects the sap.
Once that is filled, you use that thing over there on the table called a yoke and bucket, and they transport that back to the sugar bush where they're going to boil it into the syrup.
And it's not that easy. So once the buckets are full, they would put it in this device. Did it break? So once the buckets are full of sap, they would put them in this yoke, and people would actually have to walk with them on their shoulders like this. These ones are empty, but they could get pretty heavy. From there, the sap is boiled before cooling into maple syrup. For many of these kids and parents, today is just about
just get them outside and do something, even though they're on break from school, get them to do something a little educational.
While also getting a chance to see what life was like many years ago.
What could you not live without from your home?
Probably a comfortable couch.
Couch, yeah?
Yeah.
iPad?
Yeah.
And for some parents, it helps offer a little perspective.
I think it's so fun. I think it's such a great experience for the kids to see what it was like to live in the olden days. And my kids think I lived in the olden days, so now I can show them that I did not live in the olden days.
Maple Days at Black Creek Pioneer Village are on from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. every weekday during the March break. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
Still to come, with St. Patrick's Day approaching, the Maple Leafs are showing off their new St. Pat's jerseys. We'll have more on a new twist on a classic design when we come back.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, be careful if you get a phone call from someone claiming to be an investigator with your bank. A Scarborough woman was scammed out of more than $17,000, and the bank is refusing to refund the money, saying it was her fault. I'll have my reports just ahead.
Here's a live look at the city. It's going to cool down a bit tonight, but tomorrow a warm-up begins. It'll last a couple of days, and then temperatures will dip again. We'll have some rain in the forecast as well. A look at the long-range forecast after the break.
Welcome back. There are so many scams to be aware of, and now there is an old one going around with a new twist.
It's the bank investigator scam, where criminals call you pretending there's suspicious activity in your bank account. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Andrea, a woman got a phone call from someone claiming to be with her bank. They said someone was trying to steal her money, so they needed to take over her account. She ended up being scammed out of more than $17,000.
This is BMO Security Department. Is this Angela? I say yes. And then...
So they knew your name?
Yeah.
Angela Fang of Scarborough says it was last spring when she got a call from someone claiming to be with the Bank of Montreal. They said someone had hacked into her account.
And he said there's a suspicious transaction that's going through. They are going to stop it.
Fang says she confirmed her bank card number with the caller, and within the hour, more than $17,000 was stolen from her bank account.
I don't even know how to do e-transfer, to tell you the truth.
Fang says after she got the call, she went directly to her bank branch, but BMO says its investigation found Fang had failed to protect her banking information and gave the scammers a passcode. A spokesperson said, when a customer requests a one-time passcode, it's accompanied by the following disclosure. Warning, this code grants access to your accounts. Calls to request it may be a scam. If called, hang up and call the number on BMO card. Fang actually worked for BMO for 4 decades.
I don't think the bank is treating me fair. Never mind, I worked for them for 40 years.
Katia Feder of Ottawa got caught in the same scam with BMO and lost more than $14,000. Lori Johnson's mother, also with BMO, was scammed out of $15,000.
It just seems like it's too easy for that to happen.
What's clear to me is that there's a need for reform in the way that banks are dealing with these different types of scams.
Cybersecurity experts say banks should be doing more to protect their clients.
Customers should have a right to automatic reimbursement if they report this thing on the same day.
Fang says she went to her branch within an hour of getting the scam call and wants her money back.
I'm not giving up because it's too much money for me to give up. I don't want to lie down and play that. No, I don't want to. I want them to pay me back.
And you should be suspicious of any phone call if the person says they're with your bank, the police, or the tax department. Don't give out your personal information, hang up, and call back at a number you find yourself. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
One of the best things about our newsroom is that we have all those sunlight. Mm-hmm. Is it sunlight? What do you call it? The hole in the ceiling where the sun comes
the
through.
sunroof, right.
Yeah, skylight. Thank
right.
you, Agatha. Thank you. In my ear. Skylight, yes. And so at least if I wasn't outside today, I could see the sun. We also have windows, but I mean,
too, but you're
know, you're walking through.
You're right, especially like just Friday this time of day. It was dark, or getting dark, and now we've got lots of bright sunshine. The clocks have sprung forward, so it does feel good. I understand what you're saying.
Yes, I'm worried.
And
Tomorrow
we all
morning I
agree.
have my 6 o'clock yoga class. And it's going to be dark when I go there. It's going to be dark when I leave. Usually the sun's up during the class.
That's
so
the adjustment, making
that's
sure you
the-
wake
that's
up
the
on time. All
Yes.
right, let's take a look at the current conditions right now. And we are above seasonal, 7 degrees in Toronto, 5 in Trenton, 5 in Ottawa. Just a nice day. Looking at the forecast radar, just a little bit of clouds coming in, but not much. Mainly sunny, and that trend is going to continue for tomorrow. The lows overnight, normal is -5, so we're going to be above that. 2 in Toronto, -5 in Peterborough, 0 in Waterloo, so again, above seasonal. And looking at the highs for tomorrow, I mean, look at that. 14 in Peterborough, 16 in Waterloo, 15 in Toronto. That is really just almost like mid-spring, and we're not even there yet. And it is March break, so if you're looking for things to do, don't forget there's the Sugar Bush Maple Syrup Festival, there's the Sugar Shack TO, there's some city drop-in programs, and the weather's going to be great for the day. Hyde Park, Riverdale Farm, lots going on. And looking at that long-range forecast, so tomorrow, 15 degrees, mainly sunshine, and then it goes up to 17 on Wednesday, which is great. That's the peak. And then we start to go down. A mixture of sun and cloud on Thursday, the high 11. And then for Friday, we do expect some showers, and the temperatures continue that downward trend, the high of just 8 Friday, 7 on Sunday. And then Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, more seasonal. We're talking a high of 5 degrees. Some showers are expected, but just a slight chance. And then Monday next week, a mixture of sun and cloud, the high 4. So we're kind of going up and then back down. We'll give you a recap a little bit later in the show.
I know I already have my outfit picked for St. Patrick's Day, and the Maple Leafs have unveiled their updated Toronto St. Pat's jerseys with some help from NHL 24 and Sarah Nurse.
It's almost time for the St. Pat's game, so let's go green.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Got it. Wait.
Whoa, wait. Is this the new St. Pat's jersey?
Oh man, they released it in the game?
That's sick.
I mean, check out the shamrock.
The green and white jersey features a shamrock with the St. Pat's name in the center. The Leafs wear their jerseys around St. Patrick's Day to honor the Toronto St. Pat's. The team played in the city from 1919 to 1927 before becoming your Toronto Maple Leafs.
Meanwhile, the Blue Jays have debuted a new slogan for the upcoming season.
At our core, who are we? The sum of our parts? Nah, we're more than that. There's nobody like us. At our core, we are built to win. Relentless in our pursuit of greatness. Who are we? Blue Jays, to the core.
To the core replaces next level as the team's motto for the 2024 season. The Jays are set to wrap up spring training on March 25th, and they'll play their first regular season game on March 28th and their home opener on April 8th.
The Raptors will be looking to avoid a 4th straight loss when they take on the Denver Nuggets tonight.
Shot clock down, Simons. Oh, boy.
The Raptors are coming off a tough loss to Portland on Saturday. The team overcame a 24-point deficit, only to lose in overtime. Tonight's game against the defending NBA champion Nuggets is set to get underway at 9 p.m. in Denver. Well, still to come, dealing with the fallout of the pandemic, many Canadians are still struggling to repay their emergency loans. Today marks 4 years since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan has more on how things have changed and the progress that's been made.
It was a time of tremendous unknowns and fears.
I think we declared the emergency at the right time.
As the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic on March 11, 2020.
Everything was crazy. Toilet paper and tests were not available.
Sonia Malley was diagnosed before tests for COVID were even available.
Probably for about 5 months, I was completely bedbound, in and out of consciousness. I was having all sorts of heart problems, organ issues.
She was just 34 then, and for her, March is a painful reminder of how much life has changed for the former tattoo artist.
I see a world that's sort of not learned as much as it should have. a lot of people were so eager to return to normal that they were more than happy to sort of pretend that this isn't as big of a threat as it is or was.
Seniors in long-term care were hit hardest by the pandemic.
Particularly when they are housed in congregate care living facilities, we saw just how badly things can go and how we really need to overhaul this sector. I'm worried that we are in a far more precarious situation than we ever were, even before COVID. A lot of things happened during the pandemic that I don't think a lot of people realize, but particularly around the use of increased staffing agencies.
Vivian Stamatopoulos is calling for better rules to be established for the training and patient-to-staff ratios in long-term care centres. She also wants to see unannounced inspections of these facilities brought back.
They have not been reinstated. So we are just seeing, a ripple effect of bad political decisions that are leading to an even more precarious sector in long-term care. And I worry because I know that there will be another pandemic.
But while the virus still poses a danger, Dr. Isaac Bogosh says we have made some progress.
I think we have a much more health literate society. I mean, it wasn't every day you hear people talking about PCR and rapid tests and mRNA.
Canada has seen almost 5 million cases of COVID-19 and more than 58,000 deaths. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Some Canadians are struggling to pay back the emergency pandemic benefit program. The federal government paid out nearly $211 billion in emergency benefits to roughly 8.9 million Canadians. However, an Auditor General's report revealed $5 billion of the funding was given to ineligible applicants. The same goes for many businesses through the Canadian Emergency Business Account. Now, many are being forced to pay thousands of dollars back to the government. The CRA says people can qualify for partial forgiveness if they repay their loans by March 28th.
A case of travel-related measles in London, Ontario, has led the Public Health Unit to issue an exposure warning. The Middlesex London Health Unit says it is investigating a confirmed case of measles in an adult. The public notice says exposures may have occurred between March 3rd and March 8th and includes multiple fast food restaurants, bus routes, and a Fanshawe College campus.
The 96th Annual Academy Awards were handed out in Los Angeles last night.
The event was the start of a fair and saw several Canadians take home trophies. Imagine winning not one, but 2 Academy Awards. Nova Scotia's Ben Proudfoot doesn't have to imagine it. His first came in 2022, and now with his Best Short Documentary win for The Last Repair Shop, he can now make that claim. On his way to an interview this morning, Proudfoot was still beaming.
Yeah, I mean, arts are always the first thing that get cut, right? They're seen as kind of frivolous or extraneous, and we focus on science and technology and math. But actually, it's essential to not only becoming a good musician, but more importantly, like Chris, my co-director, said last night, being a better human being, being a better citizen.
Bringing the energy, Canadian Ryan Gosling joined by 65 Kens, including Simu Liu. I'm just Ken, anywhere else I'd be. Thoroughly entertained the audience with his performance of I'm Just Ken. But when it comes to film, it was Oppenheimer's night. Winning Best Picture, speaking for the team, producer Emma Thomas.
Any of us who make movies know that you kind of dream of this moment. You know you do, right?
Best Actor Cillian Murphy called himself a proud Irishman.
For better or for worse, we're all living in Oppenheimer's world, so I would really like to dedicate this to the peacemakers everywhere.
Best Supporting Actor Robert Downey Jr.
I'd like to thank my terrible childhood and the Academy, in that order.
And the 8th time was a charm for Christopher Nolan, winning Best Director for Oppenheimer. The night's biggest surprise went to the Best Actress winner, Emma Stone, for her role of Bella Baxter in Poor Things. Stone beat out Lily Gladstone, who would have been the first Native American woman to win an Oscar. Gladstone almost didn't make it to the red carpet. A pro-Palestinian protest outside the Dolby Theatre slowed her arrival and that of many others. The conflict was recognized by Best International Film winner, The Zone of Interest. The film depicts the story of a Nazi family who lived next door to a concentration camp.
Whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza, all are victims of this dehumanization. How do we resist?
I just heard a loud sound. So I think it's impact when it hit the fence.
Updating our top stories, a 19-year-old man is facing several charges, including impaired driving causing death after a 54-year-old man was struck and killed in North York early this morning. The incident happened near Lawrence Avenue West and Varna Drive near Allen Road.
Grateful that, my kids are safe. That's very, very important. We all made it out safely out of the house.
No injuries were reported after fire ripped through 3 homes in Richmond Hill overnight. Flames broke out in a home under construction on Duncan Road near Bayview and 16th Avenue, forcing an entire neighborhood to evacuate. The damage is estimated at roughly $12 million.
It's always best practice to have those wheel fasteners rechecked, retorqued after you've driven a short distance if you're doing it yourself or at a shop.
3 people suffered minor injuries after their car was hit by a flying wheel on the 401. It happened in the westbound lanes near Victoria Park. The driver of the vehicle, which lost the wheel, has been charged.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
In business, the popular social media site Reddit will be going public this week. With more, here's Amber Kanwar from BNN Bloomberg.
Reddit is often called the front page of the internet and gave insight into its IPO expected to happen this week. The social media platform says it's looking to raise nearly $750 million to help fund its growth ambitions. And while it's much smaller than other social media players like Meta and Snap, it grew sales by 20% and narrowed its losses. It's also giving some so-called Redditors the opportunity to buy shares. These are users and moderators on the platform. Now, Reddit could be valued as much as $6.5 billion when it debuts this week, but that's below its $10 billion valuation back in 2021 when the social media company became a hotbed for the meme stock frenzy. Here's a look at the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar was up modestly to around 74 cents US, while oil prices in the US advanced to $77 and change. It was a bit of a down day for Canadian energy prices by about 50 cents per barrel. Meanwhile, the TSX finished up, eking out a gain of 32 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Kanwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The average asking price for a rental unit increased 10.5% year over year in February. That's according to new data by Rentals.ca and Urban Nation. This brings the average cost of almost $2,200 a month. The data also shows the average monthly cost of a one-bedroom unit was up 12.9%. Meanwhile, the average asking price for a two-bedroom unit was up 11.3%. Ontario and British Columbia posted the slowest growth in February, but remain the most expensive provinces for renters.
Experts say business insolvencies in Canada will likely remain high throughout 2024. It comes as the economy plays catch-up following historically low levels during the pandemic. Industry experts say government support, as well as patient lenders, kept business insolvency levels low for longer than expected. The number of insolvencies increased last year, eventually surpassing 2019 levels.
Still to come, this year's Cadbury Bunny could be a horse. We'll have more on one of the 32 animals competing to be the candy company's Easter mascot.
Tonight, a vote to ban TikTok.
I think it also sets a pretty scary precedent.
Why time could be running out on U.S. and Canadian soil for the app. We'll have that story and more later on CTV National News.
Porsche has unveiled its most powerful car ever, and it's electric. The EV Taycan Turbo GT features 2 motors and has already set 2 racetrack speed records. Wow. The vehicle has the equivalent of 777 horsepower and features a launch control button for maximum acceleration from a stop. It can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.1 seconds. The car is set to be available for purchase this summer at a cost of $310,000.
Where are you going to drive it? As Easter approaches, the miniature horse is competing to be this year's Cadbury Bunny. The candy company urges owners of all types of pets to enter for a chance to be the Cadbury Bunny during Easter. Peaches is a miniature therapy horse who is now a finalist in the competition. 32 animals will compete in a bracket-style tournament with the public voting in each round. The winner will receive a cash prize and also appear in a Cadbury commercial.
And here's one more look at the forecast. We'll show you the city before we go tonight and also show you the current conditions. And you can see there's not much going on, a few clouds rolling in, a little bit going on northwest, but we expect sunny skies tomorrow and the next day. Right now, we're above seasonal, 5 in Peterborough, 7 in Toronto, 8 in Hamilton, and that trend is going to continue. Looking at that long-range forecast, for tomorrow, we're talking 15 degrees, well above seasonal, and then even higher on Wednesday, lots of sunshine, the high 17 degrees. And then we begin a little bit of a dip. On Thursday, some clouds do roll in, the high 11. And then Friday, we do expect some showers, the high 8 degrees. And then the weekend's looking okay, more seasonable temperatures. Sunday is St. Patrick's Day. Don't forget that. The high just 5 degrees, so you might want to dress warmly if you're heading out. And then on Sunday Monday next week, a mixture of sun and cloud, the high 4 degrees. So back to normal, a little up and a little bit down.
Thanks, Nathan. We'll be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching. Have a good night.